To finish up the roof, we started by putting down this membrane. Then we cut a bunch of wooden strips, which we pre-drilled and fitted with these nails. These strips were then nailed to the sides of the roof trusses. Panels that fit between the trusses were then cut from 6mm plywood. We made an angled cut to ensure a nice fit. We then laid down some insulation and sealed it up with the panels which were screwed to the strips from earlier. We specifically wanted the trusses to be visible, which is why we decided to install the roof this way. Now in my initial design for the walls, I spaced out the beams to accommodate the size of the insulation sheets. In hindsight, this was pretty dumb because it meant we would have to cut the plywood to fit the grid, which would be labor intensive and wasteful. Therefore, we went ahead and installed this support structure in the walls to fit the plywood as we bought it. Then we insulated and closed up the walls section by section.
Das wird rausgeschnitten.
Nee, das geht rein.
Nein!
In the area behind the stove, we substituted the plywood for some flame-resistant, fiber-reinforced plasterboard. We wheeled in the stove and made some ports for the chimney, as well as a small fan for ventilation. To check if everything was working properly, but also because I couldn't help myself, I immediately went ahead to test fire the stove.
Ist das schön. Ach, ist das. Also ich finde das fantastisch.
Now we've decided after the fact that there should be some more ventilation in there, so we're going to add a ventilation grate here. The problem with this is that we can't remove this tile because it's already kept secure with this angle. So I'm gonna have to cut it right here. So I've got a tile cutting bit for my Dremel with this depth gauge. Never used that before, but it should work. So let's see if it does.
Ey, Yoshi, das ist ja voll genial.
Gut, ne? We took the door off yet again to add these brushes against draft, and also installed a grip for the door. Around that same time, we also finally added the rain pipes. Good lighting is of course very important in a workshop, so I installed these lights all around the workspace. On one of our trips to the local junkyard in search of materials, we came across this awesome table base. It only needed some minor adjustments to fit the workshop like a glove. Okay, so I haven't been filming enough, so I'm just going to fill in some details on what's happening right now. This big table fits perfectly across the workshop, literally like 2 millimeters on each side. but it was way too wide into the room. It took a lot of consideration, but we decided that it should be less wide. So we removed about this much material out of these side pieces. We cut them apart. Now we're going to have to weld them back together. There's my grandma. Trying to hide. Yeah, anyway. Yes, that's what you want. All of the pieces were then wire brushed and painted. In another lucky stroke, I scored some tool cards at an auction, and one of them was supposed to become a router table, besides being a general work table. As is evident, this guy came from a machine shop, and the wheels rolled with such a crunch that we painstakingly removed all of these chips. This took multiple hours actually. Look at that perfect fit. The router table might not be something I use every day, but when I do need it, I'm very happy to have one. Using an advanced pressure application system, we glued some replacement strips onto the window frames that were missing when we bought them. Another important piece of workshop furniture is of course a solid workbench, which was up next. Okay, so we got a slight warp in the workbench, an upwards warp, and we're going to try to fix it using this hydraulic jack against the ceiling of our garage. Let's see if it works. We were a bit scared that we'd take off the roof of our garage, but thankfully the plan worked as intended. As top for the bench, I used the headboard of an old bed frame that some neighbors donated to the project. Now again, I've been slacking on filming this kind of stuff because it's not really part of the shed project. But yeah, look at what we did with this workbench. I think it looks fantastic. It had this bow in it, or warp. So that's why we have made these steel inlays to be able to really put some pressure on them with the screws. And I think it gives this medieval chest kind of look. I think it looks fantastic. And in the middle, we've decided to just make it wider than it has to be, just to have like a steel place to work on, you know, if you have to work with something hot or anything, so you don't burn the wood. And I think it just looks really great. My mom and my dad did the painting on this because I was away, so that's really neat. Got that same red look as everything else here, as the oven and this table over here. Yeah. The door frame got a nice finish at last, and then we took out the door for the 100th time to install a lock. Here you can see me making a windowsill from some leftover wood scraps. And to give it a clean look, we also made a window frame out of even more scraps. One thing I had planned for this workshop right from the beginning was to also feature a little comfy hangout spot if I ever get visitors. For that, we made this little custom sofa out of more recycled bed pieces. It features some sliding doors for extra storage and some shelves that fill out the 45-degree corner. Now, we bought the 3 square pillows, but my mom actually sewed the oddly shaped ones out of the same fabric. And she did such a great job that you actually can't tell the difference when you handle them. Lastly, we went back and installed yet another fan for even more ventilation. Around this time, I tried out my propane forge for the first time and immediately gave myself some nice carbon monoxide poisoning, and so this was an attempt to stop that from happening. And with the removal of these pesky stickers that have been bothering me for over a year at this point, I finished the filming for this series. So there you have it. I finally managed to put a line under that series. I don't know why it took me 3.5 years, but here we are. Thanks for sticking around for it. I hope you learned something, would be nice. It's actually quite nostalgic for me to look back on these episodes now, or editing them, because obviously the workshop has long been done now and looks quite different now actually than in the video you just saw. More capabilities, more tools, all that. So yeah, when I started construction on this project like 4 years ago, I was still, university student, making some space to pursue my hobby. And since then I've left the academic path, took professional training in creative metalwork and blacksmithing, and I'm now touring Europe doing various internships to improve my skills a little bit more. That's why I'm in beautiful Amsterdam right now, as you can see. It's pretty crazy to see how much has happened in that time. I really went into crafting all the way. But still I use the workshop quite a bit whenever I'm home. I love spending time in there, it's still a great place. And I hope that one day I can follow this up with like a comprehensive tour of the workshop so you can see like what you can do with such a small space. Because as I've said, the capabilities are quite large, encompassing various types of crafts. So I think that would be cool. Either way, for now I'm gonna enjoy this 1 year of travel. And I do have a few videos that have been already filmed that I could edit at any time. I just have to find the motivation to do so. Either way, I'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be, and thanks for watching, and goodbye.